a guy runs into a tranny and she says, "Hi, my name is Amanda," and he starts to date her, and then later on he finds out that she's a tranny. He can't get mad, right? Because she did say she was a man. Duh.
So if I was dating this guy, right, and I told him my name was Lil Mama, but I took him home to meet my mother, and she called me Lil Bow Wow, should he be mad?
Bruh.
I mean, I thought he could tell, or at least knew.
Hello, my name is Shannon and welcome to my channel. So I'm about to utter a sentence that I never in my life imagined I would have any reason to ever say. We need to discuss Lil Mama. I guess it's probably Lil Mama, not Little, whatever, I don't fucking care. Yeah, we need to talk about her. Now, since most of my viewers were probably not little 13-year-old queens in 2007, I assume most of you probably have no idea who Lil Mama even is. So I'll just go ahead and read to you from the first paragraph of her Wikipedia page. Lil Mama is an American rapper, singer, actress, and television personality from Brooklyn, New York and Harlem, New York. Huh? Anyway, she experienced top 10 Billboard placements at 17 with her debut album, VYP, Voice of the Young People. Most people probably remember Lil Mama from her 2007 hit song, Lip Gloss, although I personally think that her collaboration with Avril Lavigne for the Girlfriend remix was like a million times more fucking iconic.
Lil Mama and Avril Lavigne!
It just doesnn't get any more 2007 than that. Or maybe it does.
Read what is emo.
Well, Barb, this is something that has come out of the internet. Parents, there are some dangerous elements to this culture psychologists say you need to know about.
Bottom line, pretty much no one has heard from Lil Mama since then. You know, she's done enough little projects here and there over the years to maintain D-list celebrity status. I think she could very reasonably be classified as like a one-hit wonder, a has-been, which nothing wrong with that at all. It's better to be a has-been than be a never was. She's a very talented young woman, but that's what the situation is. And as with most celebrities, like D-list celebrities, nobody would ever really have any reason to think about Lil Mama unless she were to say or do something really controversial, which is exactly what she did recently on social media. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Anyway, in case you haven't heard, Lil Mama, seen here voting the house down at the 2019 House of Mugler Ball, has recently been accused of being a transphobe. Actually, not even just a transphobe, an LGBTQ phobe. That's even worse. Sis, homegirl had some choice words for all of our asses under the LGBT, all them damn letters umbrella. Now, I know I'm a little bit late to the party talking about this. It's been a few weeks since Lil Mama made the statements that people have been criticizing her for. That being said, given the fact that there haven't actually been that many news outlets talking about this controversy, because Lil Mama probably just hasn't been on these news outlets' radars, I don't think there are that many of them watching on social media. This is really only something you would have heard about depending on which pages or channels you follow online. But yeah, given that, I assume the very existence of this controversy itself is probably going to be news to most people. The story really wouldn't even be worth discussing, except that I think it touches on some major issues and themes in our society. While few people care about what Lil Mama the individual thinks, the opinions that Lil Mama has shared in regard to trans people in the LGBTQ community are pretty widespread, particularly in the Black community, a fact that I continue to be very disturbed by. So that's why I feel the need to address them. Most of the videos I see reacting to what Lil Mama said are from people defending her, and I think most of those people would assume that any person who doesn't agree with Lil Mama's criticisms of the LGBT community are just politically correct alphabet people, as they call us, the alphabet community, who are too sensitive and can't stand to hear any criticism. My argument, however, is that Lil Mama is mostly wrong, not because she deigns to challenge the alphabet community's rhetoric, but because A, the arguments she's making are logically incoherent at times, and B, she relies on misinformation and half-truths in order to make her point seem more valid. So before you change the channel, allow me to explain what the fuck I'm talking about. The most blatant example of this was Lil Mama's tweet responding to a sit-down interview that Michelle Obama did with Zaya Wade, who is, I believe, the transgender child of Damian Wade and Gabrielle Union. Here's what Lil Mama had to say. So, young children are too young to smoke cigarettes, too young to drink alcohol, too young to get a driver's license, too young to go to the club, to gamble, to rent a car. but old enough to cut off their genitals and change their gender? This is insanity, America. I'm sorry for all of that. I was just trying to be entertaining. YouTube is a very competitive place. I need those watch hours. Anyway, I understand that to some people this tweet sounds perfectly logical, but what a lot of people are not acknowledging is that Lil Mama has set up a totally false premise here. Zaya Wade, to the best of my knowledge, has not cut off her genitals. First of all, that's not even how a sex change operation on a biological male even works. You don't cut the genitals off. The genitals are basically inverted to create what is called a neo-vagina, but that's not even the point. The point here, the really important point, is that children like Zaya, who identify as trans, are not being allowed or encouraged to cut off their genitals or get a sex change operation. In fact, it is illegal to perform a sex change operation on anyone under the age of 18 in the United States. So, if you're outraged about children getting sex change operations, then you should also be outraged by toddler pregnancy, the introduction of black magic curriculum in schools, and illegal extraterrestrials from outer space coming to steal your jobs. Because those are all crazy, scary sounding things that stir up fear, but are not actually happening in real life. Kids are not actually getting sex change operations in the United States in real life. Lil Mama made that up to make her point seem more valid, and people are reacting to it and like saying she sounds so reasonable, but they're reacting to something that she said that isn't true. The fact of the matter is that so-called childhood transition is a lot less permanent than people like Lil Mama are leading others to believe. A child Zaya's age, forgive me if I pronounced her name wrong, could be allowed to take what are called puberty blockers, which is medication that's reversible and temporarily prevents the body from masculinizing because of puberty. If you're opposed to a child doing that, then I think that's a reasonable opinion to have. I'm not going to tell you that your opinion is bad or that you're a bad person. It's just important that when you're making your points, you make sure that you're saying what's actually happening, not an imagined version of what's happening. I would be inclined to disagree with your opinion if you're opposed to puberty blockers. I actually think it's a pretty sensible thing for a parent to do if their child says that they identify as transgender, because since the puberty blockers are reversible, taking puberty blockers will help the child feel better in the moment, to not have to be distressed about their body changing to look less and less like the gender they want to be and more like the opposite. It will give them time to figure out for sure if they really are transgender. Then, when they turn 18, if they decide that they're not really trans, they don't feel that way anymore, then they can just stop taking the puberty blockers and move on with their life and develop normally. Or on the other hand, if they are really trans and they want to continue transitioning, then since their body hasn't already changed irreversibly to look like the gender they don't want to be, then they'll have a much more successful transition. They'll look like the sex that they want to be identified as. I think if you're a parent and your child wants to go on puberty blockers, the question that you have to ask yourself is, if my child really does grow up to be trans, wouldn't I want them to be able to walk down the street without being harassed, without people calling them names or laughing and pointing at them, which is what often happens to trans women who don't pass? I also think it's easier for a parent to discern whether their child is actually transgender than Lil Mama acknowledges. She makes the assertion their child might just think they're trans because of something they saw on TV, because they're going through a phase.
My niece comes to me and she say, "Auntie, I want to be a boy." And I'm like, "Why, Chinky?" "Oh, because I was watching a show with Sasa, and boys are very strong. They know how to shoot basketballs. They win when it comes to tussling and little fights." And I'm like, "Well, you don't have to be a boy for that." And I can explain these things to her that she may be confused about. But if she's telling me I think that I am a boy, and she still feels that after she goes through puberty, I'm not going to label her insane. I'm going to listen to her, take heed, and support her. But we're talking about making children feel like they can make a choice of changing their genitals before they even go through puberty.
I do agree that is something that happens, but that's a very different thing that the child has been acting like the opposite sex and saying they want to be the opposite sex since they were 4, 5, 6 years old, and this has always been something that's very obvious about this child to everyone, including the parents. That's definitely the impression I get from watching Zaya Wade. This kid is extremely, extremely feminine.
I'm just nervous, but really excited.
Don't be nervous.
It's I'm meeting an idol. I'm really meeting an idol.
You can't tell me that Zaya is not happier living the way that she's living now. You know she is. Damian Wade and Gabrielle Union have gotten a lot of criticism from the Black community for allowing their kid to socially transition. But I think if you're the parent in this situation, would you be a better parent if you said to yourself, I know my child, I know this is going to make this child happier, this is how they are? Or would you be a better parent if instead you tried to force that child to try to conform and pretend to be masculine when you know they aren't. I know there are going to be some people who are going to probably say, well, I don't have a problem with Zaya being feminine. He should just be a feminine boy. It's the trans thing that's the problem. But I also know that there are also some people who would be just as uncomfortable with Zaya if she identified as a boy and dressed less feminine but still had the same overtly extremely feminine mannerisms and voice and interests and so forth. Instead of saying this child is too young to know if they're transgender, those people would be saying this child is too young to know if they're gay, they're too young to be acting like this. In my opinion, both of those arguments are just smoke screens for people to express their discomfort with the sight of a little boy acting so feminine.
You can love dudes and not act like a broad. You can like dudes, or you can like people of the same sex. What you need a fucking purse to do that for? You ain't doing that. I get it. I love you anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm not buying you a Fendi bag, nigga. I'm not.
Right.
You're not a girl. You're a man who likes men. I get it.
If you think I'm wrong or I'm just projecting, then feel free to explain why in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback, but I'm just being honest that this is what I think is really going on here. I think there are some people, maybe Lil Mama is one of them, maybe she isn't, who don't want male to female transsexuals to transition young, don't want them to look pretty and passable, they like to know when someone's trans when they're walking in the street and be able to point at them and say, oh, that's a man. If you can recall, before the trans kids phenomenon became the issue, it was the gay and trans adults who were the issue. In my opinion, people reacting on the same impulse that Lil Mama might be reacting to now, trying to find any reason to question or delegitimize trans people and gay people. They went out of their way to justify their visceral negative reactions that they had to very feminine acting males or perhaps very masculine acting females, but especially feminine acting males in my opinion. I always thought people went out of their way to try to find some reason to justify those feelings. They went out of their way to find a way to argue that we were symbols of society's decline and so forth, that there was something wrong with society. And now I think some of these same sorts of people will act like they're totally okay with us, with the trans adults and the gay and lesbian adults, as long as we make that decision as adults. It's just, again, I think sometimes it just seems like a way of justifying negative feelings. It's not necessarily logical, which is why I think people like Lil Mama feel compelled to create a false premise or pretend that some things are happening or not happening. So these childhood sex changes, people feel the need to exaggerate how bad it is or how permanent the social transition of a child is, just to justify their feelings. But yeah, that's just my opinion, but we'll just keep on with what Lil Mama said. She's expressed more of her thoughts in a video as well as an Instagram story post, and the thing she said that personally gave me the most pause is that the existence of high-profile transgender people, or perhaps the very existence of transgender people at all, seems to her to be an indication of some mass depopulation conspiracy. Basically, anytime Lil Mama sees a random transgender person, she thinks, surely this is another sign that the end times are upon us and the government is in on it. If you know anything about people who are prone to believing in conspiracy theories, then you know that there is usually no getting through to those kinds of people. Once you've convinced yourself that all evidence that contradicts your conspiracy theory is all part of the elaborate hoax, it's like talking to a brick wall. The fact that Lil Mama believes that gay and trans people are the victims of a government depopulation conspiracy really isn't surprising to me. I'm biracial. I grew up in black neighborhoods and going to black barbershops before I transitioned to female. So I know for some reason black folks love them some damn conspiracy theories. I know there are people of other races too who believe in this kind of stuff, but it's borderline mainstream to believe them in the black community. I don't know why that is, it just is. I know that people who are prone to believe in conspiracy theories are statistically more likely to have lower self-esteem, and it definitely seems to me that a lot of black people in America have lower self-esteem due to racial gaps in wealth and achievement and so forth, but that's just theory. The fact of the matter is that black people from this sort of an environment tend to think conspiracy theories are very woke. They tend to think that people who espouse conspiracy theories are very smart, pillars of the community kinds of people. That's why if you walk into a black barbershop in any black neighborhood, you're bound to hear some motherfucker that looks like Cedric the Entertainer being applauded for spouting off some government conspiracy nonsense. So I know that in the minds of most of those kinds of people, I am no intellectual match for Lil Mama to them. She says what they think sounds woke, so she wins the debate in their mind. trans. One recent example of this whole black people believing conspiracy theories phenomenon was when a slew of minor black celebrities like Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hughley, the usual suspects, started very credulously sharing posts alleging that Bill Gates orchestrated the coronavirus epidemic in order to justify inventing a vaccine that would be used to kill off 10 to 20% of the global population. They based this theory on a statement Bill Gates made in a TED Talk where he theorized that eradicating certain diseases would allow parents in third world countries to raise children who would live into adulthood, thus allowing them to have less children to help make ends meet, and thus reducing the problem of overpopulation. I mean, it seems obvious to me, but like people who are prone to believing in conspiracy theories, which a lot of black people are, those kinds of people are going to be inclined to take that statement completely out of context and run with it, and try to manipulate it into something else to try to sound woke. We in the black community affectionately refer to the phenomenon of this way of thinking as nigga logic.
You're tuned in to a brand new episode of Dumb Nigga Logic 101.
Let me be clear that, having grown up around poor black people who often exhibit the stereotypical black behavior that society stigmatizes, there's actually a lot that I love about that culture. I admire the realness and the sense of humor and sort of like disdain for conformity, and that's something that I've carried with me over the years, which I think ought to be obvious, but I'm also self-aware enough to know when I need to call out the bullshit. And this conspiracy theory stuff is almost always bullshit. It's the way that some people who are prone to self-delusion cope with the complexities of the world, in my opinion. It's easier to believe in conspiracy theories than to try to cope with the pain of reality. In Lil Mama's case, she embraces the somewhat popular theory that birth control pills make children gay. I tried Googling this. I couldn't find very much on it. It sounds crazy to me. There may be some truth in it somewhere, but I think the biggest reason Lil Mama believes this is it's just easier for her to believe that there's a government conspiracy to reduce the black population by turning black men into gays and trannies, than it is for her to accept that there are, to use the old school terminology, there are sexually inverted people, which is what they used to call feminine gay boys and masculine lesbians, sexually inverted people who grow up to be either gay or trans and who are exceptions to the biological rule. And that's just something that cisgender straight people need to be able to acknowledge for the reality of what it is. In any case, I'm sorry that I just wasted your time with a major tangent. We actually have another Lil Mama post to react to. Here's the message Lil Mama felt compelled to post to her Instagram story. She says, "I'm about to start a heterosexual rights movement called anti-LGBTQ bullying." That's right, y'all. Lil Mama is an activist now. Make sure to sign up for her newsletter. Join her as she marches on Washington.
I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama.
Anyway, she goes on to address all of us alphabet people, saying, quote, "Y'all fight so hard to be respected, and some of you, not all, get a kick out of bullying people for having an option, how they dress and how their hair or makeup looks, how much money they have, etc. There are so many people afraid to give their honest opinion, because if they do, the LGBTQ will hear what they want and take statements out of context." Okay, so the post itself is like borderline incoherent. I can't figure out if she's trying to say LGBTQ people bully straight people for having an option or for having an opinion. She never spells the word opinion correctly in the post. Maybe she was high on Ambien like Roseanne was. I don't know. So, like, either she's upset that there are some trans people and gay people who make a point to emphasize that cisgender straight people have the option to live normal lives or something, or or maybe she was really trying to say opinion instead of option. And if that's the case, then I guess that what she means is that gay people or trans people bully straight people for having an opinion that we disagree with. If that's the case, I can see where she has a bit of a point. Like, yeah, some alphabet people go a little overboard and say things that don't make sense sometimes. But is it really that serious? Like honestly, if I could survive being bullied and ridiculed mostly by black people every day when I was growing up and being treated like I was a freak because I was feminine, then I think you ought to be able to deal with a few overzealous gays commenting on your Instagram post. Like, yes, the LGBTQ community has the power to influence what is considered politically correct in the media, and that affects what celebrities celebrities, even D-list celebrities, are able to get away with saying publicly, but that's not how it works in the real world. If you walk into any high school in the United States or any rough neighborhood in the United States, the kids in that high school and the people in that neighborhood who make gay people's lives a living hell do not give a damn about what the media considers to be politically correct. Let's not act like they do. The LGBT agenda has no power there. And like I said before, okay, if the gays and the transgenders can survive the hell that we get put through in real life, you can deal with the PC police on the internet. And I'm so... Just kidding, I'm not done yet. I think part of the reason that the alphabet community can be so overzealous is precisely because of what we've had to go through. When you're used to people constantly trying to come for you, people constantly trying to mistreat you because of the way you are, you have to be able to find some way to cope with that. And I think a lot of LGBT people cope with that by latching onto like super woke social justice ideology, because that's the ideology that makes them feel legitimate. It's the ideology that tells them that there's nothing wrong with who they are, and it gives them a reason to explain why society has mistreated them. And I think that the fact that social justice culture has become so influential in the media and online makes the ideology feel more legitimate to these people, to these gay and trans people. So being able to call people out online for being problematic makes them feel in their minds like they're rectifying all of their old wounds. I'm not defending the behavior of these people, the ones that go overboard with it, but what I am saying is that this behavior is directly related to the emotional trauma they've experienced. And if you were to reduce the level of genuine homophobia in our culture, then I'm willing to bet you that you would also reduce the number of LGBT people who bully straight people for having a different opinion. Like, the only reason some petty-ass trans girl is going to make fun of your makeup or make fun of your hair weave, in most cases, is probably because you called her he, or you said or did something to make her feel bad about who she is. And so making fun of your makeup makes her feel better. And let's not act like some of the reactiveness from LGBT people, which Lil Mama refers to as bullying, isn't justified sometimes. Yes, there are times when queer or gay or whatever you want to call it, people are overly sensitive and can't take criticism. But there are also times when the shoe is actually on the other foot, so to speak. There are times when gay and trans people speak out about a legitimate concern they have about the way straight people are treating them, and some straight people react negatively to being called out, and they avoid the issue by accusing the gay person of just being a snowflake or something. Much like bisexual people, this issue goes both ways. Some LGBT people are hypersensitive and can't own up to their mistakes, just like some straight people are hypersensitive and can't own up to their mistakes. In reality, I think it's totally fair to point out that trans people face certain obstacles in life that cisgender straight people who have the option to live traditional, unquestioned lives don't necessarily have to face, unless you're, of course, one of the rare cisgender straight people who gets mistaken for a transgender person. I'm talking about you, Lil Mama. Low-key, do you want to bet the reason Lil Mama is so mad at trans people is because people keep saying that she's actually Lil Bow Wow in drag? Y'all remember that meme? It got so out of hand that I've seen YouTube videos where it's just a slideshow of pictures of Lil Mama, and the person narrating the video is promoting some baseless conspiracy theory that Lil Mama is actually one of the transgenders. Okay, all jokes aside, I don't actually take this meme seriously. It's obviously just a meme that's meant to jokingly acknowledge the fact that Lil Mama and Lil Bow Wow look like they could be like sister and brother or something. But it's funny. It isn't the case that Lil Mama actually looks like she's biologically male. Again, it's just a stupid meme. In any case, that's not the point, obviously. It's just funny. But I do think there is a conversation that needs to be had between the so-called straight community, especially the black straight community, and the so-called gay community, especially the black gay community. And I agree with Lil Mama that both sides need to be able to be honest with one another and be honest about what they really think and what their actual concerns are. I also think, and I suspect Lil Mama would agree with me on this, that you can't have a debate if either one or both sides refuses to respect the other side's reality or refuses to be real and not be petty. Both sides have to demonstrate that they are truly acting in good faith. That being said, I think Lil Mama has not done a good job of convincing the other side that she is acting in good faith. She convinces the people who already agree with her that she's acting in good faith because those people are already primed to see things the way she professes to see them. But she does not convince people who have been exposed to and have accepted additional perspectives that challenge the analysis that she and her supporters have grown to feel most comfortable with. In my opinion, I think she blatantly lied by pretending that trans-identified children are getting sex change operations. Maybe she really didn't know that sex change operations aren't actually on the table for children in the US, or maybe she merely consciously pretended that it was so that she can make her argument seem more justified. I genuinely have to wonder if Lil Mama's real goal is to simply position herself as being critical of trans people and gay people because that position is popular in a substantial subset of the Black community. It honestly seems to me like it doesn't really matter so much what points she uses to try to substantiate her position, because if it did, she would have been able to argue her positions on a more honest and nuanced playing field than she actually did in real life. She wouldn't have just been grasping at whatever proverbial straws that she could pull from her hazy memory of different LGBT people she's met over the years. I could be wrong with that. I could just be projecting. But if I'm right, then I think that one of the reasons this bothers me so much is because I feel like it doesn't have to be this way. We could actually get along if the people on the other side could get past their visceral reactions to gay and trans people, specifically their reaction to effeminate biological males. Because let's be real, that's who most of the people have the biggest problem with and are always trying to come for the most. One of the things that absolutely just kills me is the way that some people, especially Black people, will swear up and down that I don't have a problem with gay people, I don't have a problem with trans people, but I just don't understand the whole gay thing. I don't understand the whole trans thing. And my reaction to that is like, bitch, yes the fuck you do. You know damn well that there are some biological males who are very, very feminine and who are attracted to men. But then when we grow up and we say out loud that we're gay or we say that we're transgender, then all of a sudden you want to try to front and pretend like you forgot that part. You forgot that we're so feminine. And now you want to act like you don't understand why we want to be with men, or why some of us may feel like since we're feminine, we might as well just go ahead and be females. Like, be real. It's not that you don't understand the whole gay thing or the whole trans thing. What you're really saying when you say that is that you're just not comfortable with it. You're not comfortable with the whole gay thing. Like, honey, live your truth and own that shit. That's what you're saying. Nah, I done got heated. Let me calm my ass down. But I do still have to hope that like some sort of reconciliation is possible here. I'll give you an example, okay? One that includes Lil Mama herself. I recently saw an interview of her on this radio show called The Breakfast Club. This clip was from like 10 years ago, but this was my first time watching it. It's the clip that spawned this meme. Anyway, in that interview, there's a guy who calls himself Charlemagne the God. Okay, he went out of his way to try to humiliate and belittle Lil Mama for basically the entirety of the interview.
But you're an actual musician. You actually have, I guess, some type of talent. Like you did have a little buzz going at one point.
Definitely have talent. And
but what have you done lately, though? This is a what have you done for me now type of industry.
What have you done lately?
It was to the point that I was sitting there with my jaw literally like on the floor like a Looney Tunes character. My face was like this. Just because of like how unfairly he was treating her. In that moment, I wasn't one of the alphabet people, and she wasn't a cisgender straight person. I was a person who recognized and related to what this particular person, Lil Mama, was being subjected to. I saw another human being struggling, and I saw that for what it was. I'm pretty damn sure that straight people of whatever ethnicity are also perfectly capable of having that same reaction, that same feeling of empathy towards us alphabet people. And when you can truly show that you do understand us, and you are acknowledging our reality, not your made-up, self-serving, warped interpretation of our reality that you use to advance an argument, then we can talk. I guarantee you that if you're actually willing to be honest with yourself and honest with others about your issues with us, then we will do the same in return. All I'm saying is be honest, play fair, and have some empathy. Straight people are capable of doing that, and gay people are capable of doing that. There's my commentary. Thank you for listening if you made it this far, and let me know in the comments what you thought and what you might want to hear me talk about next. I should let you know that like for some reason you probably noticed this like on YouTube will like delete people's like comments, and like it won't even be like bad comments. It'll just, if you type out a paragraph, it's like there's a 50-50 chance that paragraph could be deleted just because of 1 or 2 words that were used in the paragraph. So I try to like set the comment settings to like accept all comments, and then sometimes it lets me go in and manually accept comments that have been held, but then sometimes the comments just disappear. So trying to fix it. If one of your comments gets deleted and you weren't saying anything crazy or anything mean, then just want you to know it wasn't me that deleted it, it's the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully they fix that at some point. The only comments I ever delete are just people who are obviously trolling, people who are obviously trying to be like super rude. But if you're not one of those people, then please feel free to comment. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Everyone take care of yourself, be safe, and thanks again for watching. Bye.
You don't even know me like that. Are you pressed for time? Put you in my mind. Come a little closer like that. Staying up all night, throwing drinks back.